Hi there, welcome back. We're about to make the last family that we need to make for our fraction calculators. And it's the fifth family. It's a little difficult to fold at the beginning, so I'm going to take it a little bit slowly. Before we do, I'm just going to ask you a question between the eighths and the ninths. Now, we've already folded these before. So there's our eighths and our ninths. And if I would ask you which is smaller, hopefully you'd be able to tell me that it's the ninth that's a little bit smaller, because there's a little bit of an edge that's left here. So the ninth is just a tiny touch smaller than the eighth. Now, the logical argument that goes with that is that we started with the same size piece of paper. One of them we folded up into 9 equal size pieces, and the other into 8. So this one has an extra whole piece, so each piece will have to be that little bit smaller so that we can divide it into 9. So using that similar argument, I'm going to ask you, we're about to make a fifth, and should it be bigger or smaller than the quarter? So this was one piece of paper divided into 4 pieces, and it was this large. That's a quarter there. Half and half again. And on this one, we've got one piece of paper. We want to divide that into fifth. We want a whole extra piece, which means each one of these will need to be a little bit smaller than the quarter. So the fifth should be a little bit smaller than the quarter. That's what we're going to use that to help us fold a fifth. So if you've got a quarter that you can use, we can use that, or you can just use your fingers. So here's my piece of paper. A half would be about there. I can see that would be about half. A quarter is a half of a half, so if I halve this half here, I get to about there. So that's about a quarter. And if you have a quarter already folded, you'll see that that's where it is. That's a quarter. Now, we decided before that a fifth should be a little bit smaller than that. And this is where a little bit of practice will come into it. So that would be a quarter. I'm going to fold a fifth a little bit less than that. Now, this may not turn out exactly right. Just a little bit less. But again, we can have another go if we think it's not quite right. So this is one of my 5 pieces. I know I'm going to have 5 altogether. So how many should be left in the rest of the piece of paper? There's 1 there. We should have 4 remaining. So now all I really need to do, I've had a guess at how big a fifth will be, is divide what's left into 4 equal parts. So I'm just going to go half there and half there. The other way to consider that would be to start with the one that you have and then just keep folding it over. Hopefully you get something where they're all about the same size. Doesn't have to be too exact for this one. So there's my 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, like before, a reverse fold will help them sit flat. There we are. Sits nice and flat now. And I'm going to frame one of these. So I'm going to choose the middle one. There we go. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is one of 5 equal size parts. We call that a fifth, F-I-F-T-H. One of 5 equal parts. Okay, so like what we've been doing, we now compare that to some of the other fractions that we've been making. Here is my fifth. Let's have a look at it compared to the third. Fifth and third. So the fifth is smaller than the third. This is a tough one to get. The sixth. Oh, I know. We made sixth a different way with our half family. That one's easier for me to use. So here's my fifth and my sixth. And I can see that the fifth is slightly larger than the sixth. Overlaps that way a little bit, but this is certainly a lot bigger. Okay. There's the fifth. Now, even though it's the last fraction family that we're making, it actually holds one of the most important fractions, apart from the half in it. So we're going to make that one now. So starting with the fifth on top. There he is. There's the fifth on top. Starting with the fifth, we're going to fold that in half. Do a reverse fold so it kind of sits flat. Now open that up. Now before we open it all the way out to count, we're going to have a little think. Here is my fifth. You can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fifth has the 5 of those size pieces of paper stacked on top of each other. Each of these is a fifth in length. And what we've done is we've folded that in half. So each of those fifths is folded in half. How many will I have now? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've got the same again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so now I have 10 pieces that are exactly the same size. And in fact what I've made there is tenths. A tenth. T-N-T-H, one of 10 equal size parts. Now how did we make that? Well, we started with the fifth and we took a half of it, so this is a half of a fifth. So that's a tenth. Now the reason that's extremely important is because our whole number system is based on a base tenth system. So this will help us with the decimals, it will help us with place value. So this little fraction here, which is the smallest of all the fractions that we've made so far, ends up being one of the most important. So here's our tenth, here's our ninth, and we can see that the tenth is just a little bit smaller than the ninth, which was just a little bit smaller than the eighth. There's the eighth, there's the ninth, and there's the tenth. Not much difference in all of those. We also have the sixth, a little bit larger there. And then we had a quarter. Larger again. Then we had a third. Larger again. And we had the half, the largest of all our unit fractions. We can use this to also get an idea about halves. So here's our half family. I can see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters and a half. So even though I've framed that half there, I could choose to use this as a half, because what I have here is 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters, 4 eighths and 2 quarters, and we know that they are all equivalent statements of a half. So that is half of my piece of paper. I'm going to put that over the top of my fifth there, and the tenths. I can see that a half is the same as 5 of those tenths. So I've had 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those tenths. I've got a half. So we've got 5 fraction calculators. Hopefully you've developed some more understanding about fractions and their size, and through the questions that you've been doing at the end of each one, hopefully you've been developing a sense of how to add and subtract with fractions that are part of the same family, or like the 6th that belong to 2 different families.